Okay, let's unpack this. India's climate is famously diverse, from the rain-soaked hills of Meghalaya to the arid deserts of Rajasthan. But what does a century of climate data tell us about how this incredible country is changing, region by region? And with extreme weather events on the rise, how are its bustling cities preparing for what's to come, especially when heavy rainfall hits?
What's truly compelling here is how these regional stories, when you piece them together, they paint a broader picture of India's climate evolution. Your sources provide us with, well, a wealth of data on everything from significant shifts in monsoon patterns to specific urban vulnerabilities, and also the impressive efforts underway to build resilience against climate-related disasters. We'll really get into the complexities of monsoon forecasting, understanding the science behind the very wind flows and seasonal patterns that define India.
India's climate is often described as tropical monsoon type, and for good reason, right? Even though its northern reaches actually sit in the temperate belt, it's a truly unique setup. The mighty Himalayas play a huge role, acting as this massive shield that blocks the cold air masses sweeping south from Central Asia.
Exactly.
This literally makes North India warmer by about, what, 3 to 8 degrees Celsius in winter compared to other regions at similar latitudes globally. So the mountains fundamentally define India's climate, even in the north.
That's right. And then in summer, you have those incredibly hot, dry Lu winds blasting across the North Indian plains. They come from the Thar, Balak, and Iranian deserts. These push temperatures up to levels comparable to the southern parts of the country. So climatically, yeah, the entire subcontinent south of the Himalayas can genuinely be treated as a tropical country. The crucial element, though, the real heartbeat of India's climate, is that seasonal reversal of winds in the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal.
Ah, yeah.
That's what truly defines India's distinct wet and dry tropical monsoon climate.
That seasonal reversal creates some wild regional diversity in rainfall, which is like a core part of India's identity. Imagine this contrast. Mawsynram and Cherrapunji in Meghalaya are drenched with around 1,000 centimeters of annual rainfall,
Incredible.
while Jaisalmer in Rajasthan barely sees 12 centimeters. That's like going from the world's wettest spot to a near desert within the same country.
Indeed. And we see the staggering variability across the country. The Ganga Delta and the coastal plains of Odisha, for example, they experience intense rainfall during July and August. But then if you look at the Coromandel coast on the eastern side, it's bone dry during those very same months.
Right.
And the arrival of the southwest monsoon itself is staggered. Goa, Hyderabad, and Patna typically get their first monsoon rains by early June, whereas northwest India often has to wait until early July. This staggering arrival impacts everything from agriculture to urban planning.
So how does this grand system actually work? What are the precise atmospheric mechanics behind the monsoon, and what drives its famously sudden onset?
It's all about atmospheric dynamics, really. As the Tibet Plateau heats up during summer, it causes a significant shift. Basically, the easterly jet stream replaces the westerly jet stream. This particular atmospheric change is a key ingredient in the sudden onset of the southwest monsoons.
Okay.
Later in the year, around October and November, we get the northeast monsoon, often called the retreating monsoon. This is when the low-pressure trough moves southwards, bringing dry weather to North India. But what's fascinating here is that it's actually the rainiest period for the eastern peninsula region. It's often marked by cyclonic depressions,
Which are?
low-pressure systems that can develop into cyclones. They form in the Bay of Bengal and frequently target the east coastal plain.
It's incredible how these regional patterns we've discussed are actually tied to these massive global forces. Can you explain how players like El Niño and La Niña throw their weight around with the Indian monsoon?
Absolutely. These are critical global climate phenomena. El Niño, for instance, generally has an adverse effect on monsoon rainfall over India, and it tends to suppress cyclogenesis, that's the formation of cyclones in the Bay of Bengal. However, it's often good for cyclogenesis in the Arabian Sea. Critically, El Niño events are frequently linked to widespread droughts across India.
Right, El Niño.
Conversely, La Niña is almost the opposite. It's typically good for monsoons and favors cyclogenesis in the Bay of Bengal while suppressing it in the Arabian Sea. Not surprisingly, La Niña events are often associated with common floods. These large-scale oceanic and atmospheric patterns are a huge part of monsoons' low predictability that forecasters often talk about.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they introduce a significant degree of variability that makes long-range forecasting incredibly challenging.
So, given all these complex factors and global influences, what does a century of actual data tell us about the monsoon's trends? Looking back from, say, 1901 to 2020, what have we observed about India's lifeline?
Well, the data reveals a significant and frankly concerning trend. Rainfall associated with the South Asian summer monsoon has decreased by approximately 7% since 1950.
7%.
Yeah. The potential reasons for this weakening are complex,
Mhm.
but they point to changes in land cover patterns and increased anthropogenic emissions, essentially, the pollution from human activities. This weakening is projected to continue.
Mm.
And while there's an overall decrease in the number of rainy days, especially in western and central areas of the country, we've also seen substantial increases in extreme precipitation events, particularly over the west coast and west central India.
So, less frequent rain, but much heavier when it comes.
Exactly. It means less frequent but far more intense downpours, which is a dangerous shift for a country so heavily reliant on consistent rainfall.
That's a critical distinction. Fewer rainy days overall, but when it does rain, it's often more extreme. How does a country like India adapt to that kind of shift? What about historical drought patterns? Has this always been the case?
Well, an analysis of monsoonal droughts by Seika back in 1999 highlighted their epical nature, meaning they tended to occur in specific periods. They were more frequent during 1890-1920 and again from 1960-1990. Over a 125-year period, there were only 4 phenomenal droughts where seasonal rainfall was more than 26% below the seasonal mean. Those were in 1877, 1899, 1918, and 1972. Drought frequencies were generally high over western and central India and the northern peninsula.
And what about cyclones? How have their patterns shifted over the last century? We hear a lot about them.
It's interesting, we saw the maximum number of tropical disturbances, 163, during the decade of 1941-50. But the last decade of the 20th century, 1991-2000, actually showed a decrease in both tropical cyclones and monsoon depressions. There were 42 tropical cyclones and 43 monsoon depressions, against a long-term average of about 6 and 13 per year, respectively.
So interestingly, while the number of cyclones hasn't necessarily surged in recent decades, the number of lives lost seems to have gone down. That raises an important question. Why this positive trend in saving lives?
This is a powerful story of progress, really. While the frequency of intense tropical cyclones doesn't seem to have increased significantly, the loss of life from these systems has tended to fall quite dramatically. This is largely thanks to better weather forecasts, improved warning systems, more efficient dissemination of those warnings.
Getting the word out.
Exactly. And crucially, vastly improved disaster management strategies on the ground. For example, the devastating 1970 Bay of Bengal cyclone killed around 200,000 people. Just devastating. But a similar cyclone in 1991, with similar intensity, saw a marked decrease in deaths. It really indicates the success of these improved measures.
That's a powerful testament to the advancements in disaster preparedness. It really is. What does the most recent analysis, specifically from 1901 to 2020, tell us about these monsoon trends in specific regions?
The latest analysis shows that around 91.2% of meteorological subdivisions across India have exhibited significant monsoon trends, so most areas. Nearly half, 47.1%, show a statistically significant decreasing trend, while 44.1% show an increasing trend.
So a real mix.
A mix. But what's particularly notable is that in recent times, specifically in the second and third quarter decades of this period, most areas are actually experiencing decreasing trends. This decrease may be attributed to an increase in anthropogenic aerosol concentration in the northern hemisphere. Basically, more human-made pollution in the air.
Right.
Anomalous warming of the Indo-Pacific warm pool, which is a massive area of the ocean,
Yeah.
or potentially a weakening of the land-ocean temperature gradients.
Yeah.
All factors linked to global climate change.
This brings us to the cities, which are truly on the front lines of these climate shifts. India is one of the most disaster-prone countries globally, isn't it? Not just due to climate, but also its socioeconomic susceptibility. Rapid urbanization has led to massive pressure on land, pushing habitations into natural floodplains and dramatically increasing vulnerability for millions.
To address this, India enacted the Disaster Management Act back in 2005, which led to the creation of the National Disaster Management Authority, or NDMA. The goal was to implement a more holistic and integrated approach to disaster management. However, the sheer scale of urban growth presents enormous challenges. particularly for megacities like Mumbai.
Mumbai is such a prime example of this urban crisis. Its population has more than doubled since 1991, now sitting at, what, 22 million people?
Staggering number.
It is. And a staggering 62% of this population lives in unplanned slums with limited civic amenities. And its geography makes it incredibly susceptible to flooding, with 50% of the rainfall during July and August often falling in just 2 or 3 big events. Daily rainfall of 250 millimeters is common.
And projections suggest this intensity will only increase. We're looking at an average increase in maximum rainfall of approximately 15 to 20% in each 30-year slice, potentially reaching 30 to 45% over a 90-year period. To truly understand the human cost of this, let's look closely at a place like the informal settlement of DNR. These communities, living near dump yards, lack basic sanitation and water facilities. Residents suffer from chronic respiratory and skin diseases due to toxic gases like PM10, NO2, SO2 from the dump yard.
It's just a compounding crisis for these residents, isn't it? Extreme rainfall exacerbates their susceptibility to waterborne and vector-borne diseases. What's more, their insecure tenure, meaning they don't legally own the land they live on, prevents residents from investing in safer building materials.
Making them highly vulnerable to fires as well.
Exactly, and their poor economic status often hinders formal risk reduction practices. They just don't have the resources.
Mumbai's 2005 floods serve as such a stark reminder. A staggering 944 millimeters of rain fell in 24 hours.
Unbelievable.
It inundated over 60% of the city. A key factor was the lack of real-time forecast mechanisms back then. Post-2005, significant improvements have been made, including the installation of 35 automatic weather stations and a Doppler flow gauge on the Mithi River for early warnings. However, the city remains vulnerable. Only 3 out of 105 Mumbai outfalls are equipped with floodgates.
Only 3.
Only 3, which leaves the city exposed to high tides and seawater entry. This indicates ongoing challenges despite the progress made.
And it's definitely not just Mumbai facing these urban challenges. Across India, different cities are grappling with their own unique climate vulnerabilities and developing varied responses.
Take Bengaluru, for instance. Its rapid urbanization, population growth, poor water management, and climate change have led to a severe water crisis. The city's lakes have alarmingly declined from maybe 400 to just 65, largely due to illegal encroachment and siltation.
From 400 to 65? That's shocking.
It is. And this leads to a bizarre paradox. Both floods during the monsoon and chronic water shortages in the dry season. Bengaluru even faced an 18% rainfall deficit in 2023.
Then there's Ahmedabad, which has shown remarkable success in one particular area, right?
Yes, Ahmedabad's Heat Action Plan, implemented since 2013, is a notable achievement. It uses temperature forecasts and interagency coordination. It's estimated to have avoided around 11,190 deaths annually, which is huge. However, contrast that with its drainage system, designed for a mere 12.5 millimeters per hour rainfall. It makes it susceptible to floods like the one in 2001 when it received 508 millimeters in 13 hours.
A city of contrast and preparedness, then?
Very much so.
Hyderabad has also seen its share of severe floods, like 325 millimeters in 24 hours back in 1908 and 240 millimeters in 24 hours in 2000. And they've seen increasing average annual rainfall, too.
Yeah, between 1988 and 2002, looking north, the Himalayan region, particularly Uttarakhand, presents a different set of vulnerabilities. The Himalayas are warming faster than the global average, contributing to events like the 2013 cloudbursts in Uttarakhand and Nepal and heavy rainfall in Jammu and Kashmir in 2015. More recently, the land subsidence in Joshimath in January 2023 was attributed to climate change, necessitating major efforts to ensure health safety for the affected population.
And in places like Korba, Chhattisgarh, which was designated as the 5th most critically polluted area by the CPCB, that's the Central Pollution Control Board, back in 2017 due to coal mines and power plants, pollution adds another layer of health crisis.
Absolutely. Reports from Korba highlight increased premature births, low birth weights, and stillbirths. It really emphasizes the critical need for robust health sector preparedness in areas with significant industrial pollution. This is a clear example of the climate crisis as a health crisis.
So, with these immense and diverse challenges across the country, how is India building resilience across its urban centers? What's the multifaceted response taking shape, from policy down to on-the-ground efforts?
Well, policy and governance are foundational. The Disaster Management Act of 2005 and the pivotal role of the NDMA alongside state and district disaster management authorities are paramount. There's a clear emphasis on improving interagency coordination, establishing standard operating procedures or SOPs, and crucially, integrating disaster management plans with broader city and district development plans. They can't be separate things.
Makes sense.
Even the Ministry of Environment and Forests has a role through municipal solid waste management rules because improper dumping exacerbates flooding by clogging drains.
And how about the actual infrastructure and urban planning for heavy rainfall? Are cities rethinking their physical layouts and what they build?
Absolutely. Urban planning measures now include things like contour mapping for precise drainage design. And road releveling is being done by milling existing layers rather than just adding new ones on top, which prevents road levels from rising and impeding drainage.
Smart.
Yeah, and there's a significant shift from mere stormwater disposal to comprehensive stormwater management. This includes source control, which basically means storing, treating, and even reusing water locally,
How do they do that?
often through innovative techniques like infiltration trenches, porous pavements, and rooftop storage. Think of it as catching and reusing rainwater right where it falls, rather than just letting it overwhelm the drains downstream.
Okay, managing it at the source.
Exactly. Efforts are also underway to protect and restore urban water bodies and remove encroachments, which are vital for natural drainage. Plus, flood-proof design and construction techniques are being integrated into architecture and engineering curricula, so building it into the training.
Early warning systems are so crucial for immediate response. Are there improvements being made in that area, especially for localized urban rainfall?
Yes, your sources highlight a critical gap in real-time rainfall data over urban areas, which makes establishing local networks a high priority. Mumbai's post-2005 efforts, with its 35 automatic weather stations and that Doppler flow gauge on the Mithi River, serve as a positive example of what can be achieved. These local systems are vital for micro-level alerts to give people that crucial lead time.
Beyond infrastructure, what about health system adaptations, particularly in the face of this climate crisis as a health crisis you mentioned? How are they gearing up?
This is a really vital area. The National Program for Climate Change and Human Health, or NPCCHH, emphasizes community participation. On-the-ground adaptations include things like solarization of primary health centers, PHCs, in Kerala to ensure power reliability during outages, which is critical during floods or storms.
Yeah.
And flood-proofing infrastructure by building higher floor levels and ramps, as seen at the Family Health Center in Pozuthana. Health staff are also being trained for self-administering vulnerability assessments to better prepare for climate-sensitive diseases like malaria or dengue, which can spike after floods.
And finally, the community itself must be involved, right? After all, they're often the first to respond when disaster strikes.
Indeed, the community is always the first responder in any disaster. That's why community-based disaster management, or CBDM, is so important. This involves training local people, doing hazard mapping together, developing evacuation strategies, often in collaboration with NGOs. Public awareness campaigns and promoting awareness about insurance benefits for risk reduction are also key to empowering residents to play an active role in their own safety and resilience.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've taken a truly fascinating deep dive into how India's climate is changing. From the unpredictable yet vital monsoon to the on-the-ground reality for millions in its rapidly expanding cities. It's clear that while the challenges of a shifting climate are immense, the drive for resilience and adaptation across India is equally powerful.
Yeah, and this raises an important question, I think. We've seen how integrated planning, innovative infrastructure, and community empowerment are becoming key to navigating these really complex climate shifts. Despite the historical struggles and the ongoing low predictability of monsoons, the efforts across various sectors suggest a strong commitment to a more resilient future. The focus is shifting, from simply reacting to disasters to proactively building capacity.
So as India continues to grapple with these evolving climate patterns, consider this. How might our own understanding and actions, even at an individual level, contribute to the larger goal of climate resilience, not just in distant cities like Mumbai or Bengaluru, but right where we are, fostering adaptability in the face of an unpredictable future?